Okay, everyone. So today the lesson is on teacher letters of recommendation. So I want to share with you that, in this process, you have a lot of control. But when it comes to teacher letters of recommendation, students often think they just have to ask the teacher and then go away and the teacher writes a letter of recommendation and they have no control. And that's simply not true. So let me first start by sharing with you the purpose of the counselor recommendation. The counselor recommendation versus the teacher recommendation, they're two different things. And while the lesson is mostly about teacher recommendations, you need to understand the difference so to better steer your comments for the teacher in the right direction. Okay, so let me explain. The purpose of the counselor recommendation is to personalize, contextualize, and visualize. So in thinking about this, your counselor tends to be the person who has had you as a student for all of the years or most of the years while you've been in high school. So they really get to know you really well. Now, if you have a specific college counselor at school, then that person really digs deep and often will meet with your family and gets to know sort of the whole picture of your family background. So understanding that, you want to think about, okay, they're going to basically be able to really give some personal anecdotes about who you are and your family background. That person will also contextualize in this school or while she's been here. This is the kind of student she's been. This is how she's contributed to this institution, to our high school. She will also, or he will also be able to highlight any challenges or struggles, home life, learning disabilities. So in the classroom, at home, all of those things. And at the end of the day, you are applying to college. You're going to school. So you're going from one academic institution to another academic institution. So they're giving the whole picture of what kind of student or contributor you are in the context of a learning environment. Okay? All right. So how is that different from a teacher recommendation? The teacher recommendation is there to confirm, verify, and solidify. So confirm. What kind of academic student are you? So when I read the application, I see your test scores and I see your grades, your transcript, your honors and AP courses that you've taken. So I'm sort of painting a picture of what kind of academic student I think you are. And the teacher is there to confirm, yes, in fact, that's true. She's a hard worker. He's active in class, those kinds of things. So confirming what I see, yes, this matches. Verifying some leadership. So the teacher is also there maybe to add a little anecdote about something they know that you do outside of the classroom. So if I see your resume, I see your list of activities, having a teacher sort of point out, yes, this person is in student government, or this person also leads the environmental club, something like that. It's verifying something else in your application. And then the third piece is to solidify. Again, painting the whole picture. I can't emphasize enough. You're going from one learning institution to another learning institution. And the teachers, that's why there's two teacher letters of recommendation versus one counselor recommendation. This is to really help the reader, the admission officer, understand what kind of student you are. So in the case studies that we do in class, in the Jump Starter class, the case studies, there's one particular student where both teachers comment that the student turns in items late, past when they're due, okay? That's just one of those things you want to try to avoid. Hopefully you don't have that as part of your go-to habits, number one. And number two, if you do tend to have that habit, hopefully you're maybe being able to select a different teacher that you don't have that habit so that they won't be able to comment on that. Okay. So when I teach teachers how to write letters of recommendation, I also give them this little tidbit. A teacher recommendation can be summed up very quickly in one sentence. And that sentence is this: Alex is one of the best students in period 5. Alex is one of the best students in the class of 2021. Alex is one of the best students I've taught in the last 3 years. Alex is one of the best students I've taught in my 18-year teaching career. Okay, so do you see the difference there? I mean, your goal, I shouldn't have to say this out loud, but your goal should be to try and find that teacher who really sees you as one of the top students they've had in the last several years or in their teaching career. It's hard to know that or gauge that, but I'm just putting it out there that that's sort of what you want to do. Okay, so in this lesson, you're going to go through the form here that asks you different questions for your teacher recommendation. Now, you can use the same form for your counselor rec, or your counselor may have something slightly different, but you can kind of tweak it to use for your counselor. So what's the name of the teacher, the courses you took, what are the strengths, were there areas that you struggled with, how did you contribute to class, and or go above and beyond what was required of you, what course content or projects or learning experience influenced you most, provide 3 to 5 adjectives that best describe you in relation to this course and why. If you know what your intended major is and this teacher or this course has something to do with having influenced that decision, this is a great thing to put here. This is going to be key for your letter of recommendation. And is there a particular reason that you've chosen this teacher? If there is a particular reason, like this teacher, in addition to being your math teacher, is also the robotics coach, okay, and that you're on. So this person sees you in multiple areas. So that's important to do, okay? So the step 1 is to reflect on who you're gonna ask, and then step 2 is to fill this out, okay? Let me tell you and go to explaining what step 3 is. Step 3, when you're ready, is to then take your notes from what you just wrote, okay? And now you're prepared to ask the teacher for a letter of recommendation. So the teacher is going to, you're going to ask the teacher for a positive letter of recommendation. So I have 2 examples here. Mr. Baran, I wanted to ask you if you are willing and able to write me a positive letter of recommendation. Okay, so that's key, that word positive recommendation. Okay, you might add a sentence there. I learned how to better communicate my arguments through the debates in your class. Do you think you can write me a positive letter of recommendation? Okay, so in just 1 or 2 sentences, make the ask. The ask, I think, should be in person, whether that's virtually in person or really in person. And it's best to ask before the end of your junior year. You want to get on their docket. Many teachers have sort of a maximum of how many letters of recommendation they're willing to write because it's above and beyond what they have to do. So you want to make sure that you get a spot on their list, okay? So ask them before the end of junior year. Then you'll tell them, once they say yes, you're going to tell them that you're going to follow up with some information for them. So I'll give you an example. So let's say that this student, Matthew, is going to ask the social studies teacher, Mr. Baran, and then also a science teacher. So here is an example of a piece of what Matthew might craft to give to the teacher. So yes, you can give this form that you just completed with the answers in there and have the teacher draw from that. I think it's best to take it 1 step further and look at your notes and then craft 1 to 2 paragraphs for the teacher practically, so they can sort of basically take what you've written and copy and paste it into their letter, almost verbatim. They're not going to literally do that, but almost verbatim. So Matthew might say to his social studies teacher, in your American history course, I became a better communicator by learning how to develop strong arguments among my peers through the debate and discussions in your classroom. I was able to utilize those skills in my final paper, making a persuasive case of why Leroy Robert Satchel Paige is the best pitcher in baseball history. So clearly Matthew will go on to expand on that and in that paragraph, and then offer some other anecdotes in another paragraph. Now, for those of you who don't know who Satchel Paige is, he is one of the best pitchers in baseball history. And for the science teacher, Matthew might write in a summary for that teacher, taking an introductory his physics course with you as a freshman inspired me to join a record seeker, the school robotics team. As the moderator of that team, I learned from you how to build, program, and operate a real robot. I remember when Seize the Day malfunctioned last year at the first competition. With your guidance, I was able to lead my team to collaboratively diagnose the problem and quickly repair the damage before the next elimination round. Okay, so I'm just giving you a quick sample, a mini portion of what Matthew might write for his science teacher and for his social science teacher. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Those are your instructions are to step one, deliberate, think about and decide who you're going to ask for which teachers you're going to ask. Then using the form, fill out the form, answer all the questions very thoroughly. Okay, so that will take you some time. And then step 3 is to then take those answers and move it to 1 to 2 paragraphs, 3 if you really have a lot to say. Okay, but it should not be more than 1 page. Okay, all right. There are going to be some sample recommendation letters. There'll be some sample things in this lesson. So be sure to check there if you get stuck. Okay, all right, perfect. Bye for now.